Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Positively Negative. Sorry, I gotta keep my eyes on the road. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I thought I'd take you guys along on a little journey with me to shoot a couple of frames of the Nelson Mandela Bay Soccer Stadium in town, in Port Elizabeth, with my new Century Graphic camera. Now, I'm so excited to have this camera. My brother bought it for me for my birthday. How sweet is he? He found it in a store in town that sells curiosities and collectibles and things like little model cars and model trains and Pokemon cards and that sort of thing. I don't really think the owner knew what he had, because he sold my brother the camera with two film backs, one for 6x7, one for 6x9 film, for £1,500, which is about $100 US, which is probably the bargain of the century. And the camera's spotless and it works perfectly. It was a bit dusty, and once I cleaned it up, it worked flawlessly. Now, the reason I'm so excited about this camera is it means I can shoot 6x9 negatives on 120 roll film. So if you watch my other videos, you know that I have a Mamiya Flex C2 TLR camera that shoots 6x6 negatives, square negatives, which I love. But sometimes you want to do landscapes, and sometimes you want a slightly wider field of view. For me, 6x7 wasn't quite wide enough. And in any case, 6x7 cameras are extremely expensive. The Pentax 6.7, for example, and the Mamiya RB 6.7, very expensive cameras. So these Graflex cameras represented a more sort of affordable option to shoot 6x9 and 6x7. So today I'm shooting a couple of landscapes, or shall I call them cityscapes, in fact, of Port Elizabeth, of the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, which was built for the 2010 Soccer World Cup. I was lucky enough to attend Uruguay versus South Korea. It was a good match. I believe Uruguay won. I remember Diego Forlan and his blonde hair quite clearly. I've also watched a couple of Springbok rugby matches since then. It's sort of the heart of the city, and we're very proud of the stadium, and it's in beautiful condition even now. So we're very proud of it. Then over to the left of the stadium, you'll see North End Lake and the industrial heart of Port Elizabeth called North End. That's where sort of all the automotive factories are. All the things that keep the wheels of the economy turning. Okay, so I'm shooting some Kodak T-Max 100 black and white film because I wanted as much resolution as possible. I really want to test this old Graflar lens and see how much resolution we can get out of it. I really like Kodak's T-Max 100 film. It's you can't see grain really. It's like basically grainless. So I figured it would be perfect for this situation. The light's fading a little bit, so we're going to have to shoot probably at slow shutter speeds at f16. So I'm going to take a light meter reading now and see. But basically my composition is focusing mainly on the stadium, but because of the 6x9 shape of the frame, widescreen, I'm hoping to try and fill the bottom half of the frame more or less with the stadium. It might be a bit wider than that, maybe I'll crop in later, but that's the nice thing about 6x9 is there's so much resolution and so much size that you can crop in later and you don't lose too much detail, which is really cool. So the light's fading, so I think we better get these shots done. Alright, so all the settings for the Century Graphic are around the lens. So a quarter of a second is like so. We're already at f16, so now I have to cock the shutter separately. There we go, and I use a cable release so that I don't have to fire the shutter manually and move the camera. There we go. Now of course with a 6x9 back I only get 8 shots per roll, so we have to be economical, we have to plan our shots ahead of time or else we start costing ourselves a lot of money. Now, I shot a few frames before I did this little introduction when the light was a lot harsher and a lot brighter. So I'm going to be curious to see how the difference in light affects the image. Early on I took a couple of frames of the city itself, of North End. So I'm going to repeat that shot now with the sun a little bit lower in the sky, and it should create a completely different feeling, hopefully. Okay, I'm going to go back to my previous meter reading off the grass down to 1/4 of a second at f16. Check my frame one more time. It's good. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Now the key is obviously to remember to wind on to the next frame after every photograph. It is obviously, there's nothing stopping you from taking multiple exposures of the same frame. So you have to remind yourself to wind on after every frame, just as you would with the Mamiya Flex or Yashica D or any camera that requires you to cock the shutter separately from winding the film on. Luckily, I'm used to those sorts of systems, so far I haven't made a mistake, although this is only my second roll shot through this camera, so hopefully I haven't jinxed myself. I see a very nice looking aloe tree in the foreground here, and the sun just catching the stadium nicely, and there's nothing more South African really than an aloe. Maybe Springbok rugby, I guess, or brandy, or wine in a box. But this will look good, I hope. Let's see, aloe in the foreground. It's a pity this house is between us and the stadium. There's not really a better viewpoint of it, and I'm worried that these images might come out looking like I've taken pictures of a house and not of a rugby stadium. So fingers crossed that's not the case. 3, 2, 1. And that's that. It can be quite tight sometimes to wind it through. There we go. There we go. Now we're winding nicely. Okay. That's why you always keep a coin in your pocket for your face plate. That's the word I was forgetting. Alright guys, from me and the Century Graphic, that's it for today. Thank you for coming with me on this journey. Thank you for trying something a little bit different. And I'll see you next time.